Yes, 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 you found your way back to the channel. Hey, how to think before you speak. And if you're new to the channel, this channel is dedicated to the study of sales, leadership, psychology, communication, and business. Every lesson is built from the first principles because understanding why something works will always outperform memorizing what to say. Hey, today we're going to talk about a skill that separates average communicators from exceptional ones, thinking before you speak. And I don't mean becoming slow. I don't mean sitting there for 5 seconds trying to manufacture the perfect response. I mean developing enough mental processing speed that you can listen to someone, understand what they actually mean, recognize what information you're missing, control your emotional reaction, and then deliberately choose the best response. That's a completely different skill than simply being good at talking, right? A salesperson can have an incredible amount of skill, product knowledge, memorizing every objection that comes by them. They're able to knock it down, all the closing techniques. Hey, but listen, they'll still struggle because their mouth consistently gets ahead of their brain, over talking, right? So today I'm going to teach you how to fix that. Let's go ahead and write down Module 1 here. Create space between what you hear and what you say. So understand this. The first principle is simple. Stop reacting, stop processing. Your prospect says, that's more expensive than I expected. What happens? Okay. Well, most of you immediately start talking, defending the price. Yeah, I completely understand, but let me explain. Well, why? Why do you guys do that? Because you heard something that sounded like an objection and immediately reacted to it. But here's the problem. You don't actually know what the objection is yet. That's expensive can mean I can't afford it. I don't understand the value. I expected something cheaper. I'm comparing you against something else. I'm nervous about making the decision. I want to see if you'll discount it, right? Or it could simply mean that's more than I expected. That's it. So why are you already answering a question that they haven't even asked? Develop this sequence. Write this down. I want to hear, pause, interpret, then choose, and then speak. Okay? The pause might only be a second, and during that second, I want you thinking, what exactly am I responding to? And that's the beginning of communication mastery. All right? Let's go over to Module 2. Hey, you got to listen for meaning, not just words. Here's what communication gets more sophisticated, all right? People rarely communicate in perfectly precise language. They give you compressed versions of their thoughts. So a prospect might say, well, I need to talk to my wife or my husband, and those are just words, but what do they mean? Maybe their wife genuinely participates in every financial decision. Maybe they're uncomfortable making the decision themselves. Maybe they don't see enough value. Maybe they're afraid of making another bad financial decision. Maybe they don't know how they're going to explain the purchase. Maybe they're politely trying to leave the conversation. You don't know. So stop pretending that you do. I need you to think in 3 layers, okay? Layer 1, what did they say? Write that down. What did they say? That's layer 1. The literal statement, like what did they say? Okay, layer 2, what could they mean? Write that down, the possible interpretations. And then layer 3, what do I need to know? That's where your next question comes from. So instead of immediately attacking the spouse objection, watch this. Hey, absolutely, what specifically do you think she'll want to understand before you two make that decision? Boom, now we're learning. Remember this, never solve an objection that you haven't diagnosed, right? Then it just becomes awkward and weird. You're like forcing someone to do something, okay? Module 3, write this down. Stop preparing your answer while they're talking. Look, this is one of the biggest mistakes I hear on sales calls. The prospect starts talking, the salesperson hears something familiar, and immediately their brain goes, oh, I know what this is. Oh, do you? Right? Now they're thinking about what they're going to say next. They're waiting for the prospect to finish. They're technically hearing, but they're no longer listening. There's a difference between hearing and listening, right? I want you listening through 4 different channels. So write this down. Content. What actually happened? Okay, then we have emotion. How does this person feel about what happened? Meaning. What does this experience mean to them? Implication. What does this tell me about how they're likely to make this decision? So the prospect says, I've tried starting businesses before and none of them really worked. Well, most salespeople hear, oh, they've owned their own business. I hear something completely different. I'm wondering, why didn't that work? What happened? How does this person interpret those failures? Do they believe the business models failed, or do they secretly believe they failed? Because if they don't trust themselves anymore, I could give them the greatest opportunity in the world, and they still might not move on, right? They might not do it. So I might ask, looking back, what do you think prevented those businesses from becoming what you wanted them to actually become? What you actually envisioned them becoming? Why'd they fail? Talk to me about that. Now we're getting somewhere, right? Let's go over to Module 4. Write this down too. Hey, build the module before you give the solution, okay? Before I recommend anything to somebody, I want a model of their situation in my head. I need to understand current state, so write that down. Where are they today? Write this next thing down. Desired state. Where are they trying to go? Write down the gap. What's preventing them from getting there, okay? Then we have the cause. Why does that gap exist, right? Then we have the cost. What is staying where they are costing them, right? Write down constraints. What's preventing them from changing it, okay? And then we have the decision criteria. What would they need to see, understand, or believe to confidently move forward? This is why great salespeople can sometimes spend a significant amount of time asking questions before they ever present. They're constructing the model. Okay, here's the question I want you to start asking yourself. So instead of what should I say next, ask what don't I understand yet? Okay, what am I not understanding here? That question will save you from talking yourself out of sales. If you don't understand the problem yet, don't present. If you don't understand the motivation yet, don't assume. If you don't understand the objection, don't handle it. Keep discovering. All right, let's go over to Module 5. Write this down. Know the job of your next sentence. This is advanced. Before you speak, determine what is my next sentence supposed to accomplish, because every sentence should have a job, right? Maybe the conversation needs clarification. Maybe it needs challenge. Maybe we need some empathy. All right, maybe it needs some contrast, okay? Maybe it needs a summary, a reframe, a commitment question, all right? The prospect says, I'm not sure this is the right time. Don't immediately think, oh, what's my timing objection script? Where is it? Think, what's my objective right now, right? Is it clarification? So when you say the timing doesn't feel right, what specifically about the timing concerns you? Now they answer, and that answer determines your next objective. This is why I don't want you becoming dependent on scripts. Scripts are training wheels, right? Eventually, you need to understand the architecture of the conversation, okay? Module 6, write this down. Say less, but make it mean more. One of the greatest communication skills that you can develop is compression, especially if you're intelligent, because intelligent people have a tendency to over-explain. They see 17 connections. They want to explain all 17. Well, don't, okay? Your prospect doesn't need to know everything you know. They need the information that matters right now. Before explaining something, ask, what's the central idea? Why does it matter to this person? What's the minimum information required for them to understand it? That's communication compression. So instead of talking for 4 minutes, based on say this, okay? Hey, based on everything you told me, I don't think your biggest problem is finding opportunities. I think that you don't have a predictable system for turning those opportunities into revenue. And then stop, right? Let them think. A great communicator doesn't measure intelligence by how many words they can use. They measure it by how much meaning they can deliver with precision. All right, Module 7. Module 7 is this. Don't let your ego answer for you. Hey, this one matters in sales. It matters in management. It matters in marriage. It matters everywhere. Okay, someone challenges you. Someone interrupts you. Someone misunderstands you. Someone criticizes your recommendation, and immediately what happens is you feel something, right? And that's normal. The problem begins when your emotion chooses your response. Prospect says, I don't think you understand my situation, right? And your ego wants to say, no, I understand exactly what you're saying. But don't, because now you're defending yourself instead of understanding them. Try this instead. Hey, that's fair. What part do you feel like I'm missing? Okay, and look at the difference. No defensiveness, no argument, no ego. I'm not argumentative, right? It's just information. You have to learn to separate what happened, which is the objective event. What did I interrupt? Okay, the story I told myself about the event. And what responses serve the conversation? That's emotional discipline. Never allow protecting your ego to become more important than understanding the person in front of you. All right, let's drop down to Module 8 here. Hey, the title of Module 8 is Attack Vagueness with Precision. Start listening for vague words. Like, you'll hear them, listen, you'll hear them consistently. You'll hear them all the time, all right? Like expensive, later, interested, worried, busy, not ready, need to think, more money, more freedom. These aren't complete answers. These are containers, okay? And your job is to find out what's inside of them. If someone says, I need to think about it, don't respond to think about it. Ask, well, of course, what specifically do you feel like you need to think through? Well, I just, let's say I want more freedom. Let's say they say that. When you picture having more freedom, what does that actually look like for you? This seems expensive compared with what you expected. Now we're communicating with precision. One of the fastest ways to become a better communicator is to stop pretending you understand vague language. Just clarify it. Okay, let's go down to Module 9. We got 2 more left. You made it to the very end. You guys are doing great. Hey, Module 9, think one move ahead. Now we're getting into conversational strategy. Before you say something, start asking, hey, if I say this, what is the person likely to do next? Think about that. Communication has consequences. If you pressure someone, they may protect their autonomy. If you become defensive, they may defend their position harder. If you overexplain, they may start searching for holes. If you challenge someone's identity too aggressively, they'll protect that identity. But if you ask intelligently, they'll usually elaborate. If you summarize accurately, they'll usually feel understood. If you reduce pressure, they may become more honest. If you create psychological safety, you often get better information. So don't ask, is what I'm about to say correct? No, instead say, what response is this likely to produce? That's a different level of communication. All right? You're thinking one move ahead. All right, let's go over to Module 10 here. Develop dual awareness. Okay, this is where everything comes together. The highest level of communicators develop what I call dual awareness. One part of you is participating in the conversation. Write that down. One part of me is participating in the conversation. You're listening, like you're talking, you're asking questions, you're laughing, you're building rapport. You're completely present in the conversation, but another part of your mind is observing the conversation. It's asking, what changed? Why did their tone change? What did they avoid answering? What topic increased their energy? What assumption am I making currently? Okay, what haven't I clarified? Am I talking too much? Am I trying to solve this too early? What does this convo need from me right now? That's metacognition, right? You're thinking while you're communicating. Eventually this becomes automatic. You stop obsessing really over, like, what's the perfect thing to say, because you understand people. You understand people, you understand patterns, you understand emotion, you understand conversational structure, and you understand how to ask better questions. You understand regulate yourself, and you become incredibly difficult to throw off. So I hope this video was helpful. Don't mind my daughter's crazy hair. She wasn't supposed to come in here while I was doing this. She just woke up out of bed. It's really early, so don't mind her. She's having fun today. But listen, guys, I hope this video was helpful for you. Here's what I want you to practice over your next 100 conversations, because if you give an important response, mentally ask yourself, what did they actually say, right? What could they mean? What am I assuming? What information am I missing? What does this conversation need next? What response is most likely to move us there? Then speak, because becoming a great communicator isn't about having a giant vocabulary. It's not about talking fast. It's not about sounding impressive either. And it's definitely not about memorizing 100 clever lines. It's your ability to listen accurately, process information quickly, regulate your emotions, recognize patterns, reduce complexity, and deliberately choose language in real time. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. Check us out at Universal Accounting Center if you're looking to build a premier accounting firm in your area. We will certainly teach you how to do it. See you in the next one.